Marketing as an independent function is free to go out and create and dream and really envision the businesses we'd like to see it tomorrow. If we truly want to attract the kind of talent that marketing did, and if we truly want to be a revenue driver for the business, a growth driver for the business, driving recruitment, driving relevance, driving brand value, which sits way beyond just, what you sell today to, what sits on your balance sheet and your profit and your profit and loss statements. We have to make marketing that function which really delivers outsized to maybe any other part of the business. And I'm not saying this because I am a marketer. I think marketing for me is encompasses innovation. It encompasses what we put out as product, packaging, design, brand world. And then it also goes on to what becomes finally communication. We're in a world where people and the youngest of consumers are actually telling us we need a different frame on the world that lives around us. In the middle of all of this, when you bring up a topic like independence, I mean, I want my team to be fully empowered to be able to go out and create stories around these campaigns. And to do it, you have to give them the independence to think it through, right? So for me, independence has become something that's literally bread and butter, and the reason why we're going to be able to build out some fantastic campaigns and also attract the best talent, because then they are invigorated by this challenge of what they can put out. What we tell them to do is to basically unstereotype a lot of what is happening around us. And unstereotyping is a very, very difficult exercise because we've been so conditioned to accept that the person and that's why some of the campaigns that have worked, what does a typical homemaker look like? Who does the washing at home? Who's the person who is challenged by certain circumstances, right? Those stereotypes are so strongly, especially in a society like ours, which is a very old and a very, very, it is a very rich society culturally. Yeah. But I think a lot of that culture then finds its ways into mores even today. One could argue it leaves us with less room to operate sometimes, right? And in a society like ours, the ability to challenge what representation looks like, who should be represented. And Avani is such an idea and such a platform, right? Where you're giving representation to a community that has typically not been seen as the center of art and creativity, or whose perspective you're putting out. What we're trying to do is we're trying to question what goes into the fundamental assumptions behind whom do we storytell about, who's part of the story, how do we represent people differently, every individual in stories, and who's, by the way, behind the camera and telling the story for us as well, So yeah. It's same old interpretation. I do believe that that's independence as well, because it's taking away the barriers of saying this is what a classic storyboard is and how it will develop and go through. And it is difficult for a lot of old marketers like me, right? Because we're also sitting over here and we're saying, oh, but that's the way we used to do things. And they're like, no, no, no. We want to create something that truly comes from a collaborative, creative, far more instinctive kind of a place rather than something that's, a well synthesized, well mashed through, and it's kind of put out in a very, very well digested form. So I think that's yeah, I mean, it's a learning process for everyone every day. I don't think anyone knows how to do it perfectly, and that's the beauty of it, right? So the new mantra that we're trying to pull across for the entire marketing team now is progress over perfection. We may not get it 100% right, we may not be perfect at it, but we will be that voice of pushing for progress all the time. Marketing as an independent function is, so there is a part of marketing that is free to go out and create and dream and really envision the businesses we'd like to see it tomorrow, and land that today, right? So that's one part of it. But there's a part of marketing that also connects to delivering really the vision of the business that both the CEO or the commercial teams or what we're building together, right? So for Diageo, clearly we want to be a top performing CPG, which is really a talent magnet. with the most beautiful, vibrant brands and profitable, sustainable long-term growth. So in the middle of all of this, where does marketing go? Right? Because there's profitability, there's sustainability, there is talent, there is long-term growth, top performance. In a sense, marketing is an enabler and a binder of all of it as well. So, it's not about independence where it's sitting out and, literally, it's literally an asteroid that's, or Halley's Comet that arrives every 90 odd years, right? So I think if I were to look at it from that context, then the strength of marketing is therefore the ability to be able to create that future and, work today and land it today. Yeah. And its actions every day. And the weakness for marketing also is the fact that the center of gravity of business today tends to maybe take the lion's share of attention. So because you're also solving for the performance, the top line, the being able to put the profit really quarter after quarter well listed. So it is a quarter on quarter goal that we have to meet. So therefore, in that sense, the opportunity will always be, how do you not just balance, but how do you fiercely protect the vision or the what you want to get to? The threat is to be reactive, to be driven by what's happening in industry, or even worse, to fall for the most trite or the most how do I put it? The most obvious ways to deliver what this business can be. Because alcoholic beverages in India are, unfortunately, in the past, have not been the paragons of the most progressive and inclusive advertising, right? One can think of numerous examples where there's been the male gaze. There has been lines which have been, excusing behavior that's maybe not inclusive enough. And I'm sure that history is replete with examples. So we don't have to get into who did what, where, etc. I think the question is therefore don't fall into the trap. Don't fall into the trap of industry. Don't fall into the center of, don't get pulled down by gravitational pull of the past, but really look at saying, how do you want to build something for the future?